Welcome back to the Future Skills podcast. This week, Sharnie Rose will be speaking with female electrician Stephanie Ward. In this conversation between Sharnie and Stephanie, we're going to learn about Stephanie's journey from helping out a father-in-law on a few electrical jobs to becoming a fully fledged electrician, and also what she wants for the future. Now over to Sharnie and Stephanie.
So, good morning everyone. Today we have with us Stephanie Ward. She's a female electrician from Leicester and currently employed working for a housing association. So thank you for joining us today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Really do appreciate that. So with all of our guests, we do like to take it back to the beginning, where you grew up, what it was like growing up, and how you got yourself into the electrical trade to become a female electrician. So over to you.
So my bringing up was quite average, I guess. I started in Bristol until I was about 13. Then I moved to Derby, and then from there, obviously went to school and everything. At 16, I decided I didn't really enjoy school, so I ended up getting a job in retail, and then did that for a few years, did quite well with that, went into management and everything, and then I met my now husband, and then his dad's an electrician, so it kind of just happened that I just needed a bit of extra cash and he needed a bit of a gopher, so I went and helped him, and yeah, then obviously went to college and went from there really.
Real. So working with your husband's dad, were you just working as like a bit of a labourer on like a Saturday and evenings?
Yeah, so he basically just turned around to me and said, because originally my husband was supposed to be working with him because he had some time off work when he finished uni, and then but then he managed to get a job straight out of uni, and I had the week off anyway, so I said, do you want a hand for the week? So he was on a rewire, and he basically just turned around to me and said, I can either teach you while you're here or you don't have to learn anything. And I was like, well, I'm here, I might as well learn. But yeah, so just initially it was holding the hoover, fetching tools, helping pull cables in and stuff like that, tidying up after him, going to the van, stuff like that. But obviously as I get more and more knowledge, obviously I was able to chop out and have my own little projects and stuff on the side. So but yeah.
What made you decide from that? So obviously being a labourer, not many people really like that, like you say, carrying the hoover, making the cups of tea, taking things to bin. What made you decide, actually, I want to make this into a career, to go to college?
Well, it was me and my mum were driving somewhere, I can't remember where, but she was like, well, why don't you just do it as a career? Because I was enjoying what I was doing, because I was working full-time in retail, but then working 2 days a week with my father-in-law. Just initially it was for extra cash, and obviously I ended up just really enjoying it, and obviously there's a market for it. But obviously before I went to college, so I went to college open day, and my father-in-law was like, right, we need to get you better than the boys before you obviously start.
Absolutely.
So that was so obviously I did a year of training, and then obviously started my level 2, just on the I did an evening course for 2.5 years at college, so did that, and then yeah, I went from that. But it was me and my mum were just talking, she was like, well, why don't you just do it as a career? And I was like, I hadn't even considered it, even at that point. I hadn't even considered it. And my mum owns a marketing company within construction, so she's always been surrounded anyway. So yeah, so I've always been surrounded by my dad owns a flat roof company and stuff like that, so I've always been surrounded by construction anyway. So yeah, just went from there really.
So doing your evening course for 2.5 years, was you the only female?
No.
Oh really?
Yeah, so there was initially in level 2 there was 4 of us. Different, from different backgrounds, different ages, and then level 3 there was initially 5, because someone transferred over from a different course, so she joined to level 3, but then one of my friends dropped out, so there was a few of us, and then I'm still in contact with one of them. I know she practices, and she is an electrician within Leicester as well. So yeah, I wasn't the only one. It was so daunting though, first day, and you just don't know whether you're going to be the only female. Like, you're surrounded by like 20 odd lads. And then obviously when I saw that other girl, I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm still friends with her now, so I'm still friends with two of them, so which is nice.
How was it? Do you find, I mean, obviously there's the whole stigma of females get treated different to men in this kind of industry. Was you treated any different in college? Not obviously wanting to bash them in the slightest, but was it a case of you need to do this to a guy, you need to do this to a female, and it was just exactly the same praise all around? Or did you probably get a bit more stick in the sense of you might not be capable because you are a female?
I was quite fortunate. My experience has been really positive.
Great.
I think because I did go with that initial knowledge, like some of the lads would ask me for help, and they'd have that initial, like, because I think because as well we were all mature, like we were sort of 25 plus. Oh no, how old was I? 22 plus. I think I was the youngest. Like I think we all had that maturity level anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I think people had a hell of a lot of respect for us doing it, because obviously it's not the norm. But like, my tutors were amazing. Like, I'm still in contact with one of them now. So yeah, no, they're absolutely fantastic. And I went on to be I got a outstanding award for level 2.
Oh
and
wow, congratulations.
Yeah, so that was, I still hold that. It came up on my Facebook memories the other week, and I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot about that. But no, so I had a huge amount of respect from everyone. I think the respect was just mutual as well, but I've not had it, like, especially my college experience, I didn't have a bad experience at all.
No, that's fantastic. So because I mean, I'll go on to what we do as a business, but my understanding, does the apprenticeship route to become an electrician, so it's like on the job training and a bit of college, or is it just full college, but because you was doing evening you were still working during the daytime?
Yeah.
How was that for you? Because that must have been hard, being young, working during the day, college in an evening, social life, family life, personal life. How was that? Was there a point you was thinking this is too much, or no, this is amazing, I need to carry on, give me more?
Yeah, definitely. Well, initially, I ended up leaving retail, and I just got a job at McDonald's. Just there was no pressure. I wasn't in a supervisory role. Helped me sort of pay the rent to my in-laws and everything. Yeah. Just to obviously keep a roof over my head. But I was on the 6-3 shift every day, so I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And obviously on college days, I'd get home, I'd be falling asleep on the sofa, and then have to go out, leave for 5 o'clock to get to college for 5:30. It was, I'm not gonna lie, I did reach breaking point quite quickly. But my sister-in-law, she must have been 12, 13. She would have to wake me up because I was asleep on the sofa. Like, Stephanie, you need to get to college. I was like, oh my goodness, because I'd fallen asleep. So there were many tears on the phone to my mum and stuff. I was like, I'm just at breaking point. So I ended up getting a part-time job at Screwfix at that point.
Okay.
It was next to college. I was only on like I think 30-hour contract, if that, 24-hour contract, something like that. But it just took the pressure off. And the hours were better. I wasn't getting up at stupid o'clock, and it just meant I could focus a bit more on obviously the college work that I needed to do. But I needed to take that step down in order to obviously be where I am now. Because I think if I'd stayed at McDonald's, I wouldn't have been able to carry on, because I was just at breaking point. So yeah, you had to adapt. It was hard because it was 2 evenings a week plus all your college work, plus obviously working 2 days a week with my father-in-law and everything like that. So it was a lot.
With you mentioning it, kind of getting to breaking point, what made you decide, I'm going to push through this breaking point and carry on doing the electrical course, or no, I'm going to quit that and carry on at McDonald's? Because breaking point can break you to just stop and think it's too much.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I had a conversation with my mum just said, you need to quit McDonald's, because like she sort of talked me into obviously the bigger picture, and obviously this is temporary. It's not, you're not going to feel this drained forever, but you just need to push through and just carry on, and you're going to have a wicked career out of it.
Oh, that's great. So what kind of stage during your 2.5 years do you think this was? Was it quite soon in?
This was quite soon in. So it was sort of 2 or 3 months with it, like into my level 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was about the November, and I obviously started my level 2 in the September. So it was quite early on that I was struggling.
Yeah.
So, but obviously you just make those changes, and you have to look at the bigger picture and just go from there, and just obviously you make the changes that you need to, that you find necessary in order to get by. And I was very, I had a supportive, well, he's now my husband, but obviously boyfriend back then, but like and a really good and supportive in-laws and family. And I was lucky, like not everyone's that supportive, so I was definitely fortunate in that position.
So how long did your level 2 take? Is that a year?
Yeah, so that's a year, then another year for level 3, and then I did at the end of level 3 did about, I think might have been 6 weeks of regulations.
Yeah.
So that it was 17th.
Yeah.
And then went back in the September and did 2 short courses in the in like testing, inspection and initial verification. So obviously that would get you to a point where you could go off self-employed at that point. I decided to take a break at that point. I was getting married, like save money and stuff like that. I wasn't in a position to be able to like look for full-time employment on not a lot of salary. So I took sort of a year out. I was still working with my father-in-law a couple of days a week, so I still had that hands-on experience. Obviously with like buying a house, getting married and everything like that, I needed that job security just temporarily. And then we got married, and then I started looking for full-time positions as an electrical improver, and then initially to do my MVQ, but I've not actually completed that, and I enrolled in that 3 years ago. So, but I don't actually need that for the job that I do, so I'm not too worried about that. But
so doing the college course, level 2 to level 3, what?
Yeah.
So would you at that point be a electrician, or do you have to then go on to do your MVQ to be an electrician?
So level 2 and level 3 normally gets you sort of you can apply for jobs within like an improver rate or an electrician rate. So you're not a full-blown electrician. Obviously I went on to get my regulations and obviously my test and inspection. So obviously then I am essentially, you're domestically qualified. But obviously it depends on where you're going, because at that point, if you've got your test and inspection, your regulations, and obviously your diploma, most governing bodies will take you on as self-employed and will obviously give you the insurance and stuff like that. That's not the route I wanted to go. That was the kind of the route that I feel like college was sort of preparing you for. Especially being obviously our whole college course is a lot older, so for a lot of it, like it was a second career, potentially third career. But my initial plan was obviously to go and get fully qualified, get an approved status, but things haven't worked out like that. I haven't completed all my portfolio and stuff like that, but the job that I've got now I absolutely love. I don't need any more qualifications for that. I plan on working my way up with the company. So I'm happy, but if you speak to my mother, she's very disappointed that I haven't completed it. So but no, it's just obviously you do what you need to do, and obviously I'm quite happy. I am obviously an electrician. Obviously that doesn't take that away from me just because I haven't got my MVQ.
No. So you leave college, you take a year out, and then you start applying for electrical improver roles, electrical mate roles. Where did that take you?
So I set up a LinkedIn, and then I like applied for the odd job, but I was quite fussy because obviously I didn't know what to expect on site and stuff like that. So I'd literally only apply for jobs that I thought that I was perfect for. I did apply for one on paper. I was absolutely bang on, got a reply back saying I wasn't the right fit,
right,
without speaking to me. So that obviously knocked my confidence quite a bit. But generally there was a lot of agency work out there, and I obviously wanted full time, so I didn't actually apply for that many jobs. I connected with someone on LinkedIn who was looking for electricians within the Mansfield area. So I got in contact with her, and then she invited me in for an interview. So I went in for the interview with, it was her and the director of the company. So we went in, they gave me like a sheet of 10 questions, I think it was, and then obviously wanted to see all my qualifications and everything like that, and then yeah, went from there. Ended up offering me the job, but it was working in Sheffield.
Okay, nearer to me. I'm Doncaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took it because I knew I just needed to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
I took it. So we were working on like electrical upgrades for the local council. So we were doing like fuse box upgrades or costume unit upgrades, like wiring smokes, changing any single sockets to doubles, outside lights, things like that, and basically getting them up to obviously the fire rated regulations that obviously we're common with today. So we're doing all that. So obviously every day was pretty similar. But obviously that being my first full-time role, like I learned so much within quite a short space of time, because I was constantly on the tools. Within about just over 2 months, they thought I was doing really well, and then gave me my own van, my own team. Wow. Which was daunting but equally exciting. Yeah. So, but it just meant because I was spending 80 quid a week on fuel, just getting to and from. Obviously the hours I was doing was just horrendous.
Yeah.
So obviously the fact that I've got a van and obviously a fuel card and stuff like that, obviously it made it there was a lot less pressure from a financial point of view. So yeah, so that was pretty like a massive confidence boost, I think, because obviously you don't know what to expect going in as the only female, and like generally I've had good experience. You get the odd person or the odd comment or whatever, but generally my experience was good, and everyone was there to help you out, and I had a really supportive like supervisory team, who did push initially for me to have my own team, so I'm like hugely grateful for that. So I did that for, well, it was just over a year, I think, and then pandemic hit, and then
so only recent then.
So I've been a full-time electrician now for 3 years, just coming up to 3 years.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I started with them in the, I want to say the September of 2018.
Yep.
And then so did that for maybe 18 months, just under. Pandemic hit. We were furloughed for a week, and then ended up 3 of us going down to Wales, because it was the only work that we could get. So
okay.
Just doing EICRs in Wales for 9 months before I got obviously this position with this new company that I'm with now.
Wow. So you worked throughout the whole pandemic bar 1 week? Bar 1 week, yeah. That's fantastic. That's really good. So what made you want to leave the company, or is it just a closer opportunity, more progression in the company with now, for you to leave that particular role? Yeah, it was more I didn't want to travel. This opportunity came up closer to home, and I just felt like I needed to make the step now, because I did apply for this company initially before I went to that Mansfield company, but I didn't feel like I was ready to be working on my own. Okay. So I ended up not going to the interview at all. But I let them know. And then obviously the position came up this time, and I was like, now's the right time for me to sort of come back home, be at home every night, and just go from there, because I don't know how much more of the travelling to Sheffield and the travelling down to Wales and being away from home. Like, I want to be at home with my husband. I married him to spend time with him. So And a lot
it
say the opposite, but you know, you want to see your husband.
So I just wanted that consistency in life, I think. So, but now I'm home, like the latest I'm home's 5:30.
Yeah.
And before it'd be 6:30, 7:00 on average when I was home. So it makes a massive difference being at home, I think.
So applying for this role where you're at now, so what was the job opportunity, your requirements, like what's your job role now for this housing association?
So I am electrician.
Fantastic.
Obviously I get paid like an electrician.
Uh-huh.
So the requirements were obviously up-to-date regulations, testing and inspection, and then obviously diploma, so your level 2 and 3, which I had. So that was fortunate. So the whole interview process was 2 parts. So we did the very corporate, let's spend an hour chatting through these questions, and getting to know each other essentially, life experiences, stuff like that, the general obviously interview questions, and then obviously got invited back for a practical. They'd had a few issues in the past, I think, so they like to see you hands-on rather than just having a corporate interview, which is fair enough. I completely understand that. So, and obviously from the I've just spent 9 months doing exactly what they just asked me to do on this test.
Right, okay.
So I was very much in my element. I just said, well, I'll do it how I normally do it, because I have a process in my head that I like to test. So like I'll have an order of tests that I do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of electricians will do it the way that obviously so every test essentially is the same sequence. So I just did it like that, and I think they just saw that I knew what I was doing, and obviously I was quite confident in what I was doing. Obviously within an hour of leaving that company I was offered the job.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So how long have you been working for them now?
So I've been with them 9 months now.
9 months. And what do you oversee a team? What's your next steps with this company in regards to mentioning earlier, like progression in the company?
Yeah, so at the moment we just tend to work individually. There's 4 of us at the moment, and we're just recruiting for another.
Yeah.
So generally we'll work it like on our own jobs. Obviously they're there, and vice versa. If obviously we need help or anything like that. I've got 2 senior electricians above me, who are really supportive as well. So obviously the next step is one of my colleagues is only a few years from retirement.
Oh, wow.
So I'm hoping that obviously I would go for senior electrician in a few years' time, because that is the next step. And then after that, if the structure stays the same, after that it'll be obviously then contract supervisor.
Fantastic. Excuse me. So in regards to, because like I said, we're in an electrical and gas training company, so my knowledge on electrical is what I've learned at the company. My background's just pure site construction. So we have obviously qualified electricians, and then domestic installers coming to us to upgrade their skills. But obviously, as you'll probably know, as we know, you can't sign off your own work in regards to just leaving college. You have to obviously register with a competent person scheme. So how does that work with yourself? Are you a competent person with a scheme, or do you have a QS to come sign off your work? How does that work in your company?
So we're all individually, we've all got our own scheme within that company and within the umbrella. I can't do any of my own side work or anything like that. I can't sign that off. Yeah. But yeah, within obviously the company, I sign all my work off myself.
Do you do any work like on the side, like on weekends, like for your father-in-law? And then would the next step to become a competent person, so that work can be signed off, or is that subbed out elsewhere?
No, to be fair, I don't do any side work, mainly because of like time and stuff like that, and then it's another expense having to get your own competent working scheme and stuff like that. So generally no, I steer away from it, to be quite honest with you.
Okay. So you seem like you've had quite a blissful college experience, work experience. You know, like I say, I focus on females in the industry, but you seem to have had absolutely no concerns, no issues at all.
there's been like odd times where you're made to feel about 5 inches tall and stuff like that, but you just have to sort of just ignore it and just crack on, because at the end of the day, you know what you're doing, you know you're competent, and just because someone doesn't like the way you're doing something, or would do it differently, or you're not as quick as someone or stuff like that, like it doesn't make you a bad sparks. And I think I just had to see that. Don't get me wrong, it upset me initially, but like I have to like remember like where I've come from, and it's not all about speed or anything like that. Like a lot of the jobs I've been to, like they'll just chuck a job in and it will look horrendous, or like you'll have to go back and snag it and stuff like that, whereas obviously the jobs that I do very rarely have to go back and snag, because I've taken the time initially to get it right. I've just had to think about that, because obviously like just because you're quick or whatever doesn't mean it's a good job. So I had to sort of just take a step back and know that my supervisor was on my side, and knew that I was doing a good job. So it's not all been plain sailing, but 90% of it, 100%, it's been pretty good. So I can't fault my experience, especially like listening to other females in the industry. They've had horrendous experiences, so they've had no respect or anything like that. And I'm just very fortunate. I'm one of those people that has had a good experience.
Highlight of your career?
Probably getting this new job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think because obviously you're lone working, you're taking your jobs into your, like, under your wing, like they're your jobs, like start to finish. I think so.
What's your long-term plan? So, you know, as a colleague who's due to retire soon, hopefully to get that particular position, finish your NVQ, what's your long-term plan? Own business? You know, obviously, let's say if you have a family, that may be different, but what's your long-term plan?
Well, I always thought when I'd have children, I'd go self-employed at that point. But actually, the security of being employed, I think, takes a lot of stress off.
Absolutely.
So I think, long term, work my way up with this company, eventually come off the tools, go into contract supervisor, maybe up to void manager, and just go from there, and maybe go more off the tools and more corporate, opposed to being on the tools.
So just for listeners, female and male, you know, we have a lot of apprentices. We do a course called Domestic Installer. So we've teamed up with NAPIT to run their LCL, your 18th edition, which will change next year when the regs change, your 2391 and then your 2919, so your EV. So it's a course for me I can jump on, but it's very hard, very in depth. So that's the course we run. And then obviously there's the college route with your NVQs, your diplomas and whatnot. For anyone out there wanting to get into the electrical industry, what would your thoughts be? Because, you know, I'm 29, I've got 2 kids, I've got a house. I see it as, no, I've got a job, I like it, when I work my way up, I don't want to change. What would your message be for someone in retail, working at McDonald's? They want to do something different, but they're just scared to take the leap.
It's going to be hard. It's not going to be a walk in the park. I think if it's something you want to do, you've just got to go for it. You've got to just work through those battles and just remember, in the long run, you're going to be so much better off.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been great.
Thanks very much to Stephanie for talking to Sharnie with us on the Future Skills podcast. If you enjoyed this, I'd like to remind you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and also have a look at our YouTube channel. See you in the next one.